Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel for yet another tutorial. Let's quickly gloss over the materials that we'll be needing to crochet this really lightweight and super easy t-shirt. For our yarn, I'll be using a #1 fingering weight yarn. This is my own hand-dyed yarn, and this is actually a 10% linen and 90% superwash. This is also a single ply, so if you guys would like to, feel free to pick out a corresponding yarn. But again, this is just going to be my linen fingering weight. To go along with this, I will also be using a 3.5mm crochet hook. And then lastly, we'll need some scissors, a darning needle, and I would highly recommend a measuring tape for you guys to get your own measurements to have this shirt fit you just perfectly. So at this point, let's go ahead and dive into the tutorial. For this pattern, we're simply going to be making a front panel and a back panel and then sewing them together. So what I want to do is take a quick measurement across my chest area. Now, depending how loose or how tight you guys want the fit of your shirt to be, take your measurements accordingly. For me, I would like this to be a little bit wide and oversized on me. So I'm choosing to add on several inches of positive ease. Just make sure that you are measuring from the widest portion of your torso. So let's go ahead and get started on the pattern. I'm going to create a very basic slip knot and then bring my 3.5 hook into the knot and tighten it up. Now, to create the starting chain, we do need to create this in multiples of 4 plus 1. So whatever your measurement is in inches, just make sure that you are adding on multiples of 4 and then add 1 extra. I've just created my chain of 112 and it does reach perfectly to my 21 inches across. So at this point, in order to start row 1, I still need to chain 1 extra. I've just added on my extra chain of 1, and now for row 1, I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to place my hook into the 6th chain from my hook. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I'm just going to turn my work over and grab the back bump. I'm going to place 2 double crochet into this 1 stitch. So there's 1, here is 2. After my 2 double crochet, I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and going right back into that same stitch, place another 2 double crochet. Here's my first double, and now here is my second double. So this is what I'm going to refer to as a cluster for the rest of the pattern, but this is pretty much the basis of the whole pattern. It's really simple and it's really gorgeous. So now that we have this first little cluster made, we're going to repeat this for the entire chain. Next, I'm going to yarn over and skip 3 stitches and insert my hook into the 4th stitch and work another cluster. So I'm going to start here with 2 double crochet. There's 1, and here is my second. Now I can chain 3. There's my chain of 3, and then once more I'm going to place 2 more double crochet all into the same stitch. So our clusters consist of 2 double crochet, a chain 3, and then 2 double crochet. And now I can go ahead and repeat this for the entire row. So again, I'm going to yarn over, skip the next 3 stitches, and insert my hook into the 4th stitch. Work 2 double crochet. Here is my second, chain 3, and again 2 more double crochet into the same chain space. Once more, yarn over and skip the next 3 stitches, insert your hook into the 4th chain, and work a cluster. So 2 double crochet, a chain of 3, and 2 more double crochet. Continue repeating this pattern down your chain until we reach the end of our row. As I'm starting to approach the very end of my row, you can see that I just worked my very last cluster, and if you look really close, I have 1, 2, and 3 chains left. So what I'm going to do is place a double crochet into the very last and final chain. So here is my very last double crochet of the row, and so far this is what row 1 of your work should look like. To start row 2, I'm going to chain 3 and turn my work. Now row 2 is going to look very similar here to row 1. So what I'm going to do for the entire row is place my clusters directly into the chain 3 spaces that rest in between all of the double crochets. So what I'm going to do after my chain 3 is place 2 double crochet directly into that chain space. So here's 1, and here is my second double crochet. And now from here I can chain 3, 2, 3, and going right back into that chain space, I'm going to place 2 more double crochet. So there's 1, and here is my second. So that is the very beginning of row 2. Again, I'm going to yarn over and look for my next chain 3 space. And now here I can place my next cluster. So 2 double crochet, there's 1, here is 2, chain 3, and going right back into that chain space, place 2 more double crochet. And then one more time, yarn over and look for the next little chain 3 space right here. Insert and place another cluster. So 2 double crochet, chain 3, and 2 more double crochet. And I'm just going to repeat this pattern until the very end of my row. So far, this is how my row 2 is working up. And as you can see, all of my clusters are placed directly on top of each other, so they're kind of stacked like this. But now here at the end of row 2, I still need to finish out the row. So as you can see, I have worked my very last cluster into that chain 3 space, and to finish out the row, I'm just going to place 1 more double crochet into the chain 3 from the beginning of the row. So just make sure that you kind of turn your work a little bit and find the very top of that chain 3. And now I can go ahead and work my very last double crochet of the row. So at this point, row 2 is completed, and we can go ahead and move on to row 3. So for row 3, just like row 2, I'm going to chain 3 and turn my work. So to go ahead and show you guys how to work row 2 and now row 3 again, I have my chain of 3. I can yarn over, and now I'm going to place my clusters into the chain 3 spaces in between all of the double crochets. So looking here at the very first cluster, I'm going to insert and place 2 double crochet. Here is my 2. I can chain 3, and going right back into that center of the cluster, place another 2 double crochet. Here is my second. So that is the start of row 3, and like I said, for the rest of this top, no matter how many rows or how little rows you want to have, all we're going to be doing is repeating steps from row 2. And again, we're just going to repeat these clusters all the way until the very end of our row. And once you have worked your very last cluster, make sure to place a double crochet into the chain 3 from the row prior. So at this point, I'm going to continue to add on repeats of row 2 until I can get this top to reach my preferred height. I'm looking for something that's a little bit more cropped, so from my shoulders down to about my belly button, and then I'll meet you guys back to show you guys how to finish up the shirt. So for this very first panel, I worked up a total of 25 rows using that repeat of row 2, and as you can see, super gorgeous, very lightweight and airy, a little bit sheer, but for me this is kind of like the perfect outcome. Now I do want to take a quick measurement because this panel all on its own is a little bit short, so I want to show you guys what I'm working with. So from the very top to the very base of my 25 rows, I have exactly 10.5 inches. Now for a little top, this is a little bit short, a little bit cropped. So what I want to do after I crochet my second matching panel is I'm going to use either some blocky mats or a steam blocker, and I really want to stretch out this piece as much as I can. Given that this is about 10.5 inches, I want to aim to like stretch it somewhere to about like 13, 14 inches or so. So that's going to be my next step. But at this point, now that I have one panel all done and finished up, of course, go ahead and make yourself a matching second panel. So here I have it panel number 2 with, again, 25 rows in total. So I'm going to go ahead and block my 2 panels first before we begin seaming. I just want to do this to allow for a little bit of an extra stretch and wiggle room. So what I'm going to do next is head to my blocking mats. I'm going to steam this out, stretch it out as much as possible. And from there, my steps are going to be really simple. All I'm going to do is seam together a certain amount of inches across this top portion right here, making sure to leave open enough of a space for my neck hole. And then of course, I will also head to the side seam of the top and then kind of measure out how far up I want this top to go. But again, because I want this to be kind of airy and loose, I don't want to go up too high on my arms. So I'm probably only going to seam together about halfway on this edge of the panel, and then I can leave open this top half right here for my arms to easily get in and out of the top. So let's block this first, and then we'll come back for seaming. So I just got done steam blocking both of my panels, and hopefully you're able to see, but they are a little bit longer. I just measured them and they're closer to the 13-inch mark. So this is what I'm working with. Now my panels are nice and long and they're going to cover enough of my body. The very last steps is to go ahead and seam the top shoulder sections as well as a certain amount underneath the arms. So what I'm going to do next is use a couple different stitch markers to map out a few different lengths across my neckline. I want to decide between a tighter, more enclosed neck versus something that is a little bit more wider, something I can throw off my shoulder. So just make sure that you use a measuring tape, measure out the same number of inches along the top edge on one side as well as the other, and just throw this panel onto your body. See what type of fit that you like. We're going to use our crochet hook to slip stitch both the top shoulder sections as well as a certain amount here under the arms. Now that I have all of my stitch markers placed onto my top, what I'm going to do is start from the absolute corner of the panels and then single crochet my way all the way until my stitch markers. Of course, go ahead and repeat that on the other shoulder section. And then when it comes to the side panels of the top, same thing. I'm going to start at the absolute bottom corner of the top and then single crochet my way all the way up until my stitch marker. And that is where you're going to stop, cut off your yarn, and tie a knot. Here I am trying on the 2 panels before I continue on with seaming. I just want to make sure that my stitch marker placements are accurate and I can kind of get an idea for how this top is going to fit me once the whole thing is put together. So in order to join the 2 panels together, I'm going to start at the upper shoulder corner right here, attach my new yarn, and then I'm just going to begin single crocheting all the way down until I hit my stitch marker. And again, this is just going to mark the inside of my neckline.